because the effects are telling. This afternoon as well, we're in fact learning that cocoa beans from Ghana actually risk being banned on the European Union and Switzerland markets as the European Commission is putting forth legislation on cocoa sustainability. Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, as we know, it accounts for over 60% of global cocoa beans production, but speculative illegal mining activities close to cocoa farms are beginning to trigger some concerns on the international market, and the EU is considering a complete ban on cocoa beans from non-adherent countries in a bid to, of course, break on deforestation, which is largely fueling climate change. So Latif Idris has more on this in this report.
We enjoy this delicious chocolate and reap the economic benefits from the production of cocoa in Ghana, largely because of the sustainable cocoa produced between Ghana and neighboring Cote d'Ivoire. But there is a huge risk beckoning as the European Union and Switzerland put forth what it describes as the sustainable cocoa legislation.
Japan has already taken the lead by drastically reducing importation of Ghana's cocoa beans after the discovery of chemical residue in the beans exported to the Asian country.
When I talk about threats to the environment emanating from galamsey and the use of banned chemical substances, I'm not a scientist, but at least I know it goes into the groundwater and it comes up through the food chain. And I think Japan has either reduced or banned cocoa, the raw beans, because there have been some residue, chemical residue. It's only a matter of time that other countries and other producers or buyers will say the quality of that product is not good enough.
The European Union is seriously considering a harsher approach. The proposed new EU legislation on deforestation could hurt cocoa export from Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. The two West African nations account for over 60% of global cocoa beans production. After years of cautions, the European Union Commission in November 2021 put forth a regulation on deforestation-free supply chains, and cocoa was one of 5 global commodities selected for stricter regulation. If an observatory group is able to confirm widespread deforestation in cocoa-producing countries, paramount among the options being considered by the EU is a complete ban of cocoa products from those countries from entering their market. China has in recent years embarked on an aggressive cocoa production drive.
If we go back to the 2017-2018 escape of Aisha Wang, and the argument that she has been released because we were looking for the Sino-Hydro loan, and that where she should be to be prosecuted, it could affect the loan, then Aisha is not an ordinary Chinese gangster. She's an agent of the state. She's a spy.
It therefore brings into sharp focus allegations by security expert Professor Kwesi Enin that the Chinese government may have deployed spies to collude with some Ghanaians to destroy Ghana's forest in order to trigger the EU ban on the country's cocoa beans.
Now, all those who do this mining, people that we know, or there are people who are aligned to groups and organizations that may not want this country's welfare, but are interested in infiltrating these communities and gangs and panning for high value, small, easily transportable, easily hidden, and easily sold.
If the Chinese, as speculated by Professor Enin, succeed at this economic warfare and espionage, the European Union will be left with no other option than to import cocoa beans from countries that apply the cocoa sustainability legislation.
The widespread speculative mining taking place across Ghana's regions could be the country's undoing.
Okay, so that's Steph here. Let's bring in Fifi Boafo, Public Affairs Manager at Cocobod, joining us via Zoom now. Thank you, sir, for your time. We also do have joining us Joseph Opoku Gapo, head of our Environment and Agri Desk here at JoyNews, joining us live from the United States, and also Anthony Morrison, CEO, Chamber of Agribusiness. Thank you all for your time. I'll start off with you, Fifi. How close and closer are we to this threats that we're likely to face sanctions from the EU? And what steps are you really taking at Cocobod to actually check all of these challenges? Fifi, if you can hear me, you'd have to, first of all, unmute so we can get the point you're making.
Well, let me indicate that.
Yes, go ahead. I can hear you.
Okay. Let me say that the European Union for over 2 years have been engaging. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Yes,
you.
You can just make the point. I can hear you.
Hello?
I can hear you, Fifi. Just go ahead and make the point.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll try and...
Has been engaged.
Well, it appears that some challenge there. Let's rework the lines to Fifi. But for now, Joseph, of course, you've been monitoring the trend and what the demands of the EU market is. But for those who do not understand the technicalities of how some residues may affect the quality of the cocoa pods, just walk us through that process and tell us about how imminent the sanction may be applied on us as a nation.
Well, there's just to it's the EU to then threaten the sanctions, to then get a response from Cocobod in terms of conversations around efforts to deal with this particular problem. And I'm drawing attention to this because this is not a conversation that started today. Back in 2018, somewhere in October 2018, I'm a member of the Agricultural Environment Journalists Association. We actually sent a petition to Cocobod drawing attention to how illegal mining activities and related such illegalities are creating situations of destruction of cocoa fields and all, and requested some to the extent that copies of this petition ended up in Parliament House. Also at the level of the executive, nothing was seen. So it's just rather interesting that it's now taking threats from the European Union. Before now, we're seeing an effort to then deal with the problem. But then, hey, this is my reading of it. These threats may be real, but the reality remains that the European Union hasn't figured out yet an alternative in terms of the kind of cocoa beans that they would want to make use of for their chocolate, and it's a huge industry in that side of the world. And these threats may come, but I'm very much in doubt that they would go ahead and implement it fully by banning cocoa from Ghana. But that doesn't mean we should do nothing about it. The point I'm drawing attention to is that when locals raise these concerns and farmers complain about the destruction of the farm fields, and the reality then dawns on us right from concerns being raised locally. It's about time that officials like those at the Ghana Cocobod pay attention and deal with some of these challenges than to wait for others to step in before we start running helter-skelter.
Yeah, how much of a premium does the international market place on cocoa pods from Ghana?
Being the second largest producer of cocoa, obviously, a lot of what we do in Ghana as cocoa production is concerned. More importantly, our cocoa is considered very much a high premium cocoa by virtue of all the practices that then go in to help ensure that it's dried appropriately, it's well taken care of. So then a certain premium is very much placed on that. And I think that's what we should be leveraging our own past, a huge cocoa producing country. Look, how do we deal with some of these challenges with the illegal mining activities getting onto the cocoa fields and all? It's about ensuring that the farmers are earning better remuneration. And one way around it is creating a situation where a lot more processing of the cocoa is happening locally to then ensure that much more of the resources from the cocoa field is ending up in the hands of Ghanaians and farmers for that matter. The statistics show that the ordinary cocoa farmer is earning like, what, 6% of the total value of every bar of chocolate that you buy on the European market, for example. That's obviously out of place. And what that means is our natural resources are creating wealth for third and fourth parties and outside countries. And it's about time we looked at that, dealt with it, and created a situation where a lot of the money is staying here locally through increased processing, not processing into semi-finished products, but into real finished products, so there is enough available resources. And that will then kind of discourage a situation where the farmers would let go of their farm fields to allow for illegal mining activities on their farms.
Okay, since you're making a call to action, let's bring through now Fifi Buffo. Earlier we're having some challenges connecting with you. I hope that we have a much more stable line now. But yes, we're closer to that threat. But what steps are you taking at Cocobod to check this?
Well, let me indicate that the conversation between Cocobod and the European Union did not start today. And indeed, the document being referred to is out of a conversation that has taken place continuously for over 2 years. Indeed, before the proposal came, there were some conversations that were ongoing. And then when this legislation was proposed, we've had a series of discussions. I've indicated on your network before that when they started this, there was a period, about 6-month period, where we almost every week had meetings with the team from the European Union on the proposed bill, where we also make input into what was being discussed. Of course, we've made our point, and then what they seek to implement is also on the table. But let me say that this is not something Cocobod or Ghana is not interested in. We are very much interested in protecting our farm fields, because if we lose it, of course, everybody within the chain is also off. Apart from that, we all know the consequences of illegal mining on our environment. But as to whether or not we risk being banned from shipping cocoa to the European Union, I don't think we are close as being suggested, because illegal mining, deforestation is one issue, but that's the second leg of it. There are expectations of us that will make a country or a cocoa farmer be able to ship its cocoa to the European market. But that expectation, that's what we are working on. I'm sure Joseph, who was talking about, is very familiar with the cocoa management system being implemented. So the cocoa management system is going to help us with the traceability of our industry, where we can, for example, say that cocoa from farmer A's farm in the eastern region, Ashanti region, or any part of the country, and that farm is actually located off the forest reserve. Because the sustainability discussion that is ongoing is not just primarily on illegal mining, but it has to be with deforestation generally, issues about child labor and all that. And that is what we are working on. So the concerns are legitimate, it is being worked on, but it's not a case to say that we've gone to sleep and then we are not working on that.
What are the experts telling you? Because you carry out scientific research, at least in some of your departments. How close or otherwise are we to this? Because we all see the clear picture of how telling the effects are in terms of illegal mining on our farmlands.
I think now the criteria for a country to be able to export to the European market has clearly been outlined, even though the document is still going through some conversation and some discussion. It is for us to say that, okay, we are able to meet this criteria, and based on that, we are able to export to the European market. We believe that based on what has been done, we are not too far from saying that, yes, we'll be able to export to the European market and we'll have a challenge. In terms of rating, there are different means of rating a country. So one is the cocoa produced in off-reserve. That is the first step. We are also looking at general performance in terms of how the country is protecting its forest cover. And that is where the issues about illegal mining comes in. Even though the illegal mining on its own affects cocoa production, that is the first leg of it. But in terms of what the European Union is looking for, you should be able to prove to the European Union that the cocoa that is being exported to the European market is cocoa that was not produced from a forest reserve, that was produced deforestation free, that was produced child labor free, and that's the issue. So I think the conversation seemed to say that, okay, the fact that there is illegal mining automatically means that cocoa cannot be exported to the European market. It has its effect, but that is not exactly what the EU is looking at.
And this farmer management system that you're talking about, have you started rolling it out? And how come that we're not seeing the effects of it?
Well, I'm sure all persons who are very much interested in what is happening in the cocoa fields are aware of the cocoa management system and the registration ongoing. So the registration takes the biodata, the farm household information, as well as the polygon maps of the farm. And so far, all the cocoa regions in Ghana have been registered. The only region that is yet to be registered fully is Western North, and the team is already in Western North registering the farms. So what happens after the full roll-up of this arrangement or the system is that we'll be able to say that Farmer Kofi has a household of 6 people, wife, 4 children. He is in Esuoyeboa in Sujamai district. His farm is within this enclave, that part of the country where the farmer is producing from is an off reserve. So when the system is fully completed, it is superimposed on what the Forestry Commission has, where we'll be able to tell that these areas where we have cocoa farms are not supposed to be places for cocoa farm because it's a forest reserve. And based on that, such farmers will have to leave it, because if they continue to stay in that forest, it means that cocoa from Ghana will suffer, or you'll not be able to export cocoa from that area. The issue specifically about illegal mining, or even the small-scale mining, has to do with people who are looking for gold, and then they are almost looking for every possible land where they can mine. The geologists tell you that if you look at places where usually cocoa do well, it is also possible to have gold from such places. So in most cocoa growing regions or cocoa growing districts, you also have miners also trying to explore for gold. The issue about how much farmers earn is a very important question, because if the farmer is not earning so much, the likelihood or the possibility for the farmer to give out his or her farm to these miners is very high. So that is one of the things we are dealing with. It is not within our domain to just say that, okay, all of a sudden prices of cocoa at the farm gate is going to be increased. It is largely dependent on what is achieved at the terminal market. And if you look at arrangements such as the living income differential, these are all means seeking to improve how much they are able to realize at the market to improve the farmer income.
I want to bring in at this point Anthony Morrison. He's Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Agribusiness. Fifi, stay with us. So these are the measures being rolled out by Cocobod to check the situation. From the perspective of the Chamber, what more could we be doing as a country? Because this is a cash crop. But kindly unmute for me so I can get the points, Anthony. Yes, right.
Yes, thank you very much, and very good afternoon to your viewers. I think as a country, we have not properly contextualized our ambushes as a country. European Union has been telling on us for a while now. This is not the first time. I remember last year we did a press conference at the International Press Center where we raised issues with the deplorable condition of water bodies around the cocoa farming areas, and which were also to the Galamsey site. That miserably to elevate the situation. We've seen issues, areas where cocoa farms have actually been destroyed from Galamsey. As we speak now, I think government would have been able to mitigate this challenge rather than going to spend a lot of taxpayers' money to engage European Union lawyers to review their legislation. To tell you the truth, the European Union actually cares about their health, their citizens. And if, as a country, we invest so much into health and we allow foreigners to come in and destroy our livelihoods, our water bodies, and several others, I think that this is the least we can speak of an industry that is facing several challenges to talk about. And for government to sit down for us to get to this point. We are not only
but it's not as though we're that close to these sanctions as well as Fifi is telling us.
Please, let's not underestimate what is going on. The European Union did not just stand up to start looking at legislations. These are people who are very critical about research, who are very critical about impact of human activities on the health of their citizens. So it's not like our case where we stand up and we begin to do things. No, the European Union are very meticulous. And just as the United States of America and other counterparts, we know that there are already some work being done by other organizations as well. So let's not sit down and think that we can just water this by using a press statement or a PR system. No, we need to make sure that all ongoing galamsey or illegal mining in the country are halted. That is what we need to do. The European Union will come clear and come forcefully on us. If, as a country, we are not able to get the $1.5 billion we make annually out of cocoa and the various derivatives, what are we going to do as a country? This is the time that we need to be serious. If you are not serious about governance, we are not serious about your food systems, we are not serious about your health, we are not serious about your water bodies and other management, other countries are.
Okay.
And
how about the farmer management system, which we're being told about, the fact that we're able to track and to make sure that we check these human activities that you're talking about?
Well, we do have more than 1.5 million farmers within the cocoa industries. And in terms of the household, we know that according to the last census, agriculture census, there are well over 11.2 million agricultural households. In fact, if you take that, a quarter or almost half of that are into agriculture and into cocoa as well. Now, the management, the farmer management is a key issue here. We will have to be looking at how we are actually supporting farmers. FAO has stated that as a country, we do not have any social intervention mechanism for our farmers. And this also borders a lot on the farmer management system. That aside, market has also been a major issue, and sometimes delay in payment on the side of government for supplies of cocoa beans and several others. So these are some of the things we need to be looking at, and also scholarship or education or skill development for the dependent of these farmers and their health needs. How critically have we been able to mitigate some of their concerns? All this comes on board when we're talking about farmer management.
Okay. For you, Opoku-Gappo, what should we be doing, knowing now that there are some reports that are raising red flags of our production process? I mean, practically, are there some things that we should be doing? And have we even gotten to this level before? I mean, looking at where we're coming from.
Well, the problem keeps getting worse with each passing day as we've seen the situation develop. And I'm really still not convinced that the European Union will go ahead with that legislation because they really haven't figured out a real alternative yet. But we wait to see. However, here in Ghana, we are having a situation where on the average cocoa farm, if I'm not mistaken, the yield per hectare is hovering around 350 to 400 kilogram per hectare. Elsewhere in Latin America, the produce is as much as double of that. If we really want to create a situation where the farms are more productive, far less farm fields are being destroyed to make way for cocoa farms, but then we still get high yields, that may well be a solution. So we will then have a situation where a hectare of cocoa farm is yielding far more than it's yielding currently, and help create a situation where we wouldn't have to destroy more forest in order to grow more cocoa. So I will urge Cocobod to invest a lot more in that, in terms of improved seedlings, making available adequate fertilizers for the farmers to use, making available extension services to them so they're able to then improve upon their yield. So we don't have to continue harvesting or cutting down more trees to grow a lot more cocoa, but getting more yield even from the current average farm sizes that we have.
Right, and this is just about the regulator. How about the farmers themselves in all of this?
Well, it goes back to the reality that a lot of folks who are engaged in agricultural productivity generally, just as a lot of other fields, need the necessary support in terms of capacity building to be able to make a real difference. It goes back to a point that a lot of the agricultural stakeholders have been preaching, that we see situations where farmers are not exactly treating farming as real business entities, but then as their way of life. So then we need to see situations where farmers are seeing their production activities, their farming activities as real business, and investing their good money in it and gaining the adequate returns. Once that is happening, they'll be happy and willing to sink more investment into the farm fields. And once they have the adequate capacity, more knowledge in terms of how to go about the production, then we'll see the real difference being impacted. The point being that it's not a one-month thing. We need a more coordinated approach. We live in a country where cocoa, for example, no one has the right to export cocoa apart from Cocobod itself. So it's a huge stakeholder in the industry, one way or the other. And they need to live up to the billing, just as the farmers themselves.
Okay, let's bring in Fifi now to respond to some of the concerns you're raising. But while you're at that, Fifi, the issue about the priority for farmers themselves. It appears if we put our land to other uses aside the issue of planting cocoa trees, they may yield more returns on investment.
Well, I do not share the opinion that using the land for mining illegal mining is a better alternative, because experience has shown that farmers that decided to give their lands to these illegal miners, after a year, almost everything that was given to them was gone. They had no resource to rely on. And it is better for them to stick with the cocoa farm instead of just relying on the money that is the lump sum that is offered to them at a go. But beyond that, Joseph was talking about the fact that productivity generally is low. Yes, this is true, because if you compare Ghana to the Latin American countries that he talked about, these are large-scale farmers that apply all the technologies. In our case, you have farmers who are doing just 1 acre, and the level of commitment to it is very low. And they say that, well, it is not really something they have the resources to back it. And even in instances whereby farmer education and the training go on for them to appreciate the fact that there's a need for them to invest more into it, the appreciation is not really there. So the smallholder farmers, if you want to do a direct comparison with the large-scale farmers, I think that is a bit unfair to do that comparison. But beyond that, Cocobod is introducing a number of productivity enhancement programs, and these productivity enhancement programs are likely to ensure that the farmers are able to improve their productivity. For example, the nationwide mass pruning that is ongoing, the pan pollination, irrigation being introduced, among other productivity enhancement programs that Cocobod is running. Because to us, we believe that it is not for us to continue looking for new lands to plant cocoa, but then be more productive on the available land. That is the way to go, and that's exactly what we are working on now.
Anyway, I would have to leave the conversation here, but I'm grateful for your time, Fifi Bafo, the Public Affairs Manager at Cocobod. Earlier you heard from Joseph Opoku-Gakpo and Anthony Morrison, who's CEO for the Agribusiness Chamber. You're still with us here on The Pulse. When we get back, we'll zoom into the education sector. There's a lot happening there. Please stay.